I'm Steve Bolt in studio with two wonderful people we just had the opportunity to meet. Al Perez and his precious wife, Leticia Perez, and they are the leaders of MarriageWell. Leticia, you go first and tell us what MarriageWell is, about your testimony and how you met this handsome, dynamic man and how you guys got started.
Okay, well, we met in 1985.
Okay.
And, we got married young and had a son right away.
That's all good.
Yes, and actually ended up having 4 kids that were 5 years and under.
Wow.
Yes, and so at that time, my husband was on the fast track of a huge company and moved us, how many times, babe?
5 times in 7 years.
Yes, 5 times in 7 years.
That's always
Not smart.
a great blessing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we were young. Again, he's climbing the corporate ladder. I was raising 4 kids.
Yes.
And, it was a great distraction. And until about year 7, I think I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown.
Well, it is difficult to raise young children who are close together.
Yes,
That's a
and
challenge.
almost pretty much alone because Al was working a lot
Yes.
to provide for us, which
Yes.
was great. But at that time, I hit a wall, and my husband came home one day, and I was just crying uncontrollably, and he's thinking, "What's wrong with her? What's wrong with her?" So I know the Lord had led him to apologize for a few things.
Okay.
And then the silly man asked me, "Well, is there anything else?" And I proceeded for the next 3 hours nonstop of just everything, all these hurts
Yes.
that had just accumulated over the years. So praise God that we got through that season. We had a wonderful pastor. We were living in Chicago at the time, so we
Okay.
had a wonderful pastor who gave my husband the 5 love languages.
Yes. Great book.
Yes.
Great book.
Great book. So as my husband read it, he realized he was speaking every language but mine.
Okay.
And then about that time, that's when the Lord moved us back to California.
Okay.
And we began the process of allowing the Lord to heal our marriage, made a choice that divorce was not an option, especially for me, because
Yes.
I was done at that point. I wanted him just to send me to my mom's and let her take care of me and my 4 kids.
Yes.
And so the Lord had worked on my heart, and I remember telling him divorce was not an option, and we're gonna work this out.
Okay, Al, you're confronted with the situation. Things are difficult. The children are loved. They are wanted.
Sure.
And yet, because of the pressure of making a living and the pressure of being gone, you'd been a good provider, but you learned a few things from Leticia along the way that
Sure.
eventually strengthened your marriage, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Share about that.
Sure, and I think that that jury night there in Chicago, when I realized that she was really on the verge, if not in a nervous breakdown, the Lord really put a strong conviction on my heart finally that I could see that a lot of it was because of my neglect, my neglect of my focus on my career more than my focus on my marriage and on my family. And, God really turned things there and really helped us as we came back home, if you will, here to Ventura County, got back plugged into our home church at South Coast Fellowship, and really began the healing process. And through that healing process, God also gave us a desire to work with couples, work with other married couples to help strengthen marriages. And, we began doing that really through South Coast. And, it really turned into years of counseling and participating with other couples and trying to help them. And that kind of led us to MarriageWell.
MarriageWell. I'm going to give you a website and a telephone number for those of you who are intrigued by what we're talking about and this ministry, www.marriagewell. I'll spell that for you non-spellers, MarriageWell, marriagewell.org. Please go there and check that out. The phone number is 805-312-0216, 805-312-0216. Al, this ministry got started, I'm sure, by faith. Talk about
absolutely.
that. Talk about
absolutely. Actually, it's been about a year. About a year ago, It was 2 weeks after I had stopped working for another nonprofit called Young Athletes for Christ that I had spent about a couple weeks just kind of, asking the Lord, what's next for us? We knew that Tish and I wanted to get involved in a ministry for married couples. We knew that we wanted to do something together, and God began to really download the vision for MarriageWell in just fast and furious. And we sat in our courtyard for a couple months, and the Lord just really, really downloaded the specifics in great detail of what He was asking us to do here with MarriageWell.
Wow.
Yeah.
Staying married during these days of sociological pressure, financial pressure, political pressure, satanic pressure, because Satan wants to destroy every Christian marriage.
That's right.
And he wants to destroy every Christian. My good friend Hal Lindsey wrote a book a long time ago, Satan is alive and well on planet Earth. Well, his end is prophesied. We know about that.
That's right.
But right now, he is loosed for this season, and his desire is to destroy the Church of God, marriages, families, and real believers. So thank God that MarriageWell was created by the power of God.
That's
Yes.
right.
And that you guys were willing to listen and respond.
Yes.
I'm going to ask Leticia about the early days of how it got started and what were some of the struggles that you dealt with in getting this MarriageWell ministry off the ground.
Well, like Al said, he had transitioned out of Young Athletes for Christ, and we have this wonderful courtyard, and my husband would just go sit out there and, Lord, what are we doing now?
Yes.
I've spent a lot of time counseling, mentoring young women. He's done the same with men.
Yes.
But we've come to a place in our marriage where we wanted to work together, really work together, and be very strategic in what we were doing. So one day my husband, and you need to understand my husband, see, I'm the visionary. So I'm the one who can look out, we're driving to Pismo and I'll be, babe, can you see the bungalows on a hill? And he's, yeah, babe, yeah, I see him, okay.
Well, see, there are visionaries and then there are maintainers.
Yes.
I heard one of the pastors on our station talk about that in a recent radio broadcast.
Yes.
There are visionaries, but the maintainers have a hard time catching a hold of the visionary's vision.
Exactly.
Okay.
So my poor husband
Okay.
for 28 years he's graciously has nodded his head and, okay, sweetheart, yes. So everywhere we've traveled, I see bungalows everywhere. So my husband started sharing, he says, babe, I'm going to run this by you. So he starts sharing with me, and that's how I knew it was the Lord, because Al is not the visionary. He's the the Excel spreadsheet guy.
Okay, yeah.
And so
That's the left brain stuff.
yes,
for those who
very
are
much so.
listening.
Very much so. So as he started sharing all this, and he's painting a picture, I knew that had to be the Lord, because he's telling me, no, Tish, I see this, I got this vision. And I thought, you don't get visions. He was like, you're treading on my territory now. And the Lord really downloaded what MarriageWell was going to look like. And because of that left brain side of him, he was able to capture that and really put this down in a very, what would you call it, logical, makes sense.
Now, we want to hear the testimony of a marvelous elderly couple that was here not too long ago
Yes.
with you, Leticia.
Yeah.
And we're going to get that testimony in a little bit. Their names are Don and Millie Seidler.
Yes.
Tell us how you found Don and Millie and were able to bring them to our attention.
Sure. So Don and Millie were part of this search that we began to do about 7 months ago for the 5 longest married couples in Ventura County. And, the Lord put on our heart last summer that what better way to honor marriage as part of our launch of MarriageWell than to honor the 5 longest married couples in Ventura County. Wow. So we began that search and just kind of getting things out to the public. We did a press release. Ventura County Star grabbed a hold of it. After that, my phone and my email just went crazy. I had to take a half a day off at work just to respond to all these calls after the article ran right on the front page of the Star. And the Seidlers were one of those couples that called us. And we got a lot of calls from families, but, Mr. Seidler called himself and had a great conversation with them. And he began to tell me some of the crazy things he does, like, jumping out airplanes and
Skydiving.
things like that.
On his
Oh, my
90th
goodness.
birthday.
Yes, yes. So that's how we got in touch with them. And they actually helped us to find one of our longest married couples, a 77-year couple that live in the same area that he lives over in Camarillo.
I'm Steve Bolt in studio with Al Perez and Leticia Perez of a great ministry called MarriageWell. And we've talked just now about Don and Millie Seidler. Let's take a listen to their powerful testimony. They were here just very, very recently. Now let's talk about that party in Chicago where you guys met. I want to hear Millie's version of that party. Tell us, Millie.
Well, it was a group of young people. We never kind of dated singularly in those years. And Don came to this party from quite a distance. I was living in a suburb of Chicago, and he was in Chicago, and no freeways or anything like that in those days. So he unexpectedly came to this party, and we met. And we visited, as everyone did in those days, and well, he can tell you the rest of it.
Okay, she doesn't want to talk about that, so Don, you
Well,
share the rest.
I had two friends in school that wanted to go to the party,
Okay,
and I'm the only one that drove.
well, that took care of that.
So they asked me if I would drive them, and I said, okay, and it's 17 miles with a stoplight every 4 blocks. So we went, get to the party, and I saw Millie, and I immediately said, bye-bye.
That's
And I chased her all night.
You chased her all night.
In fact, I even told her, I'm going to marry you.
You chased her all night till she caught you.
No.
It didn't work out like
He was
that.
an athlete.
Okay.
He played football and he swam and did all of those things. And I really didn't like any of those things. And I loved opera and theater and museums and cathedrals. And so I didn't think this would match. And so I just really didn't think that this was a very good idea.
I was pretty persistent.
Well,
And I used to call up, and her father would answer the phone, and I'd hear Millie in the background saying, if that's Don, tell him I'm not home. And her father would very loudly say, Mildred is not at home. And then very softly he'd say, but if you come over, she'll be here. And I'd come over and knock on the door, and she said, what are you doing here? I took a chance, I got home.
Well, it all worked out
Oh,
just
it did.
fine.
It did. Don took me to museums, and he took me to the ballet and fell asleep, and he did all kinds of things he really didn't like to do, but he did, and it just happened to work
Now
out.
I go to the opera and classical music.
Okay, and you don't snore loud.
Don't snore at all.
Well, good. Things have changed. If you could give some advice to our younger folks who are listening, young marrieds and those who've been married only 10, 15, 20, 30 years, they're kind of newly married. Let's start with you, Millie. What advice would you give those precious women who are in charge of the home and maybe work outside of the home and in building relationships and keeping love alive? Talk about that.
Well, it's very important to talk together. You have to, if you have any kind of problem, you have to resolve it, and you have to listen to what each one says to the other. It's a lot of hard work, and all marriages have their ups and downs. But we have to, one person has to sometimes give up a little bit more than the other, but it works out evenly. Eventually the other one will have to compromise on something. But I think it's pure compromise all through your married life. And if it's something that you don't like or your husband doesn't like, you have to talk about it and not let it go for weeks or months until it gets to be bigger and bigger. But you really try to solve your problems. And I think that that's the biggest thing, that a lot of times so many of our young people are taught, well, they're very special and they don't have to, do anything that they really don't want to do. And that doesn't work in a marriage.
No, not at all.
And Don and I have always been able to talk to each other about anything, the children or anything else, and we respected each other's opinions, and respect has a great deal to do with it.
So you guys talk to each other, and you don't just send texts to each other sitting in the
Never.
same room.
Don's thumbs don't work, and our grandchildren who want him to text them, they will say, "We'll take calls from you, Grandpa," although they won't take calls from their parents. They just text.
I find it amazing that children and young people will sit in the same room and text to each other
That's
rather
right.
than talk to each other.
Yeah.
They're so geared to the smartphones and the computers and,
Right.
and the things that take away the personal touch
That's right.
and the ability just to hear another human voice.
And that's why they have hard times talking to each other.
Yes, they've forgotten the ability to talk.
Right.
So it becomes something that's typed and something that's a bit more impersonal, and that's too bad.
We had one other thing that we don't ever do. We never go to bed mad.
Well, that's a biblical principle. It says, the Bible says, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. And if you go to bed mad, you're probably going to wake up more mad.
Oh, yes.
And then things are not going to get better. So if you talk to each other, alert, 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 talk to each other, work things out. It requires compromise. You're not that smart that you make the right decisions all the time. Duh. You're not that smart.
right.
Please, just have a little, as they'd say in the South, be humble. You know what it means to be humble? They don't say that in Chicago. I lived in Chicago when I went to Moody Bible Institute 100 years ago and lived in Gary, Indiana. That was the place where all the smoke came up during those years as well. They've all moved away recently. Now, Don, I'd like you to talk about your years as a teacher, first of all. You've affected the lives of a lot of young people in
yes.
your teaching career.
Well, let me give you an example. I never went to work. I never had a day that I didn't want to go to work.
Yes.
I enjoyed every minute of it. I was a teacher. I was an attendance officer. I was a vice principal. And I was a principal
Whoa.
for many years. And I've affected thousands. In fact, when I did my jump out of the airplane,
Mhm.
I've heard from about 60 of my former students. Wow, you did it, Mr. Sadler. Congratulations on your birthday.
You did it. You did it. You did it.
So it was really, it was a wonderful experience.
When you hear from those students years later, you did have a very positive effect in their lives. You don't just teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic and a little algebra and geometry along the way. You teach them how to be human beings and how to be good
That's correct.
citizens. Talk about that a minute. It's more
Well,
than just the books.
The first thing I did is my room was open at lunchtime, before school and after school.
Okay.
Anybody that wanted to talk about anything they wanted. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
You want to talk about your boyfriend? You want to talk about whatever? I'm there to listen. And it made a big difference in a lot of people. It made a big difference in me
Yes.
because they affected me as well. I don't know. I can't tell you how many weddings that we've gone to. And we were invited because of the fact that I talked to them.
Yes. You become then kind of like a mentor to many of those
Of
young
course.
people. Is
Much
that
so.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. There are great organizations like we talked earlier today with someone from the Boys and Girls Clubs, and they do a great job in our communities of affecting the lives of young people and helping them with their homework and giving them good role models to just see that there's something more than that little world in which they live, that little apartment, that little home where they live. Now, you also spent some wonderful time in the Army Air Corps. It was called the Army Air Corps back then,
At the time I was in, it was the Army Air Corps.
not the Air Force.
Yes, no.
Same
It-
group, though.
It became the Air Corps later.
Yes.
And
Talk
no,
about that a
yes,
little bit.
I went through cadets, and as Millie can attest to, today I'm failing, the next day I'm on top of the world, and it's an up and down thing.
Yes.
And I went through cadets, no problem, and I was in, when I graduated, I became a lieutenant, and they sent me to Westover Field, Massachusetts, and I was towing targets with a B-26, waiting for assignment to an A-20, which is a low-altitude bomber,
Yes.
and I was allergic to altitude. I got the bends at high altitude.
Oh,
And the next thing I know, we have a formation, and they said, when we call your name, step forward, and I did. And they said, you're going down to Charleston, South Carolina to be a B-24 pilot. And I said, I can't fly B-24s. Those are high altitude.
Yeah.
That's not my problem. That's their problem. So they sent me down. I was on my crew. I had my crew of 10. And we trained every day. 3 days before we're shipping overseas, we did our first high altitude flight.
Mm-hmm.
I got the bends and had to drop out of the formation. They gave me all sorts of tests, and they made me an instructor and put a new pilot in 3 days before they're going overseas to take them.
Wow.
And so I didn't go overseas. And when I didn't, I said to Millie, I've got a 7-day pass, but I'm not coming home unless you come back with me. She said, you asked me to marry you? I said, of course.
As subtle as a ton of bricks.
And so then I said, let me talk to my dad. Why?
I was visiting his parents with
Okay.
my parents. I've gotten to know them, and I just love them.
Okay.
And when Don said, let me talk to my father, handed the phone to his dad. In Chicago, you couldn't marry till you were 21, and we were 19. So his dad said, well, what would you say if I said no? And Don said, well, we'd go up to Michigan or wherever.
Wisconsin. I'd go up to Wisconsin where you could marry at 18.
Of course,
And he
of
said, well,
course.
I give you my permission.
What a great testimony. Now, we've got an event coming up. I want you to
Yes.
talk about it. Give us the whole skinny.
Yes, yes. So now that we found many of these couples, which is, like I said, it's been overwhelming. It's been amazing. We had over 45 couples that contacted us, or families that have been married from 65 to 77 years. And about 28 of those couples have been married over 70 years. And I mean, hey, let me tell you, marriage is alive and well in Ventura County. So we are going to honor many of these couples. We expect over 30 of these couples to come to a Legacy Luncheon that we are putting on, that the MarriageWell Ministry is putting on May the 9th at 12 noon over in Camarillo at the Camarillo Community Center. It is going to be a phenomenal event. So many things are coming together. A lot of people are sponsoring. It's going to be a 1940s theme. We've got some antique stores over in Ventura that are going to come and decorate the place in 1940s. We're going to have 1940s music. I got a couple of surprises. I'm going to hang on to those for now for the couples. We've got couples. We're asking people to dress in the 1940s vintage kind of clothing.
I got ties that go
You
back
got
there.
There we
ties?
go.
Yeah,
Can I borrow one?
Yeah, they got beef burgundy gravy stains on them, you know.
Well, it'd be very realistic, so that would be good.
Okay.
But yeah, we're selling tickets at our website at www.marriagewell.org.
Okay.
Tickets are only $15 a piece. We want a lot of people to come out. We're expecting over 300 people to honor all of these couples and thank them for their great testimony of perseverance, their great testimony of longevity and sticking to it in their marriages.
I want to give you the website, and I'm going to give you this phone number. Please jot this down. All of the information about MarriageWell is on the website, www.marriagewell.org. All the information about this Legacy Luncheon that's going to be happening May 9th is there. And the phone number is 805-444-0314. Now, that's a new number that we just got.
Yes.
805-444-0314, just for information on MarriageWell. Now, I want to give our listeners a quick overview of this great ministry that you're involved with, because you're involved with a lot of neat things, guys. World-class coaching and counseling center, premarital coaching, marriage coaching, crisis marital intervention, family and children coaching, intimacy coaching, financial coaching. This is all needed stuff. You also deal with relationship enhancement. You've got group date night events. Now, people are looking for a good thing to do besides go to a dumb movie.
Yes.
They need to go to something that is very, very encouraging and uplifting. Also, personal and couple growth education, online resources, and services for hire. I would encourage our friends to go to your website. Hello, attention,
Yes.
attention. Go to the website at www.marriagewell.org and get all of the information. We got about a minute and a half left. Guys, what would you like to talk about in this time?
I think, lastly, I think we just want people here in Ventura County to know that there is a resource, so to say, a one-stop resource for them to come for their marriages, to be able to get help through our counseling center, to have fun. One of the things in our vision is that we want couples to have fun. We do date night events. We just did a comedy date night. We've done a salsa dancing date night just for couples to connect
Yes.
and just have a ton of fun. Tish and I love to have fun, and we're there to be able to do that. And we're using a lot of other resources. Family Life has been a partner with us already and helping us. So a lot of good
Yes.
ministries that are coming together to strengthen and enhance marriages here in Ventura County.
Hey guys, thanks so much for being with us. Al Perez and Leticia Perez, who's the Chief Encouragement Officer. I
Yes,
like
I'm
that.
the CEO.
CEO, the Chief Encouragement Officer of MarriageWell.org. Here's the website, www.marriagewell.org. Go there, and the phone number, 805-444-0314. Hey, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.